Hey everyone, Connie here, and we're here with just kind of a quick little update, and I guess you would call it an announcement of sorts. You can tell by the title, this is in regards to a new rule for the channel, the 3-strike rule. But before we get to discussing what that's going to mean, and I'm sure you can already guess, at least to some degree, let me explain what we've been doing on the channel. So for a little bit now, we've been doing something, as you know, called the 10% rule, where basically if my interest in a show reaches below 10%, I drop it. And that basically means that if my interest in continuing to watch it, or especially continuing to react to it and put forth the effort into reacting to it, specifically reaches below 10%, then I drop the show. And as I've stated in the past, there's no real actual scale to this. There's no actual 10%. And that, in a way, it's kind of been confusing calling it that because of it. So I have decided to just do away with the 10% thing, and it's basically just going to be just the fact that if I have interest or not. If I have no interest in continuing for any reason or whatnot, whether it's just continuing watching the show as a whole or continuing to react to it specifically, then I'll drop it. But that comes into our new rule and stuff. So what's the 10% rule? So a lot of people have used this kind of rule, and you can probably, again, guess like the general idea behind it. Like, the general idea behind a 3-strike rule is it's like 3 strikes, you're out. But the thing is, what qualifies the strikes? What is the thing? How do I determine what a strike is for a show? Well, for an example, just today I watched the first episode of a show called How Many Kilos Are the Dumbbells You Lift? It's a new anime for summer of 2019. And the first episode did a lot to offend me. It fat-shamed. It delivered very, very harmful conceptions of body image that could lead viewers into bulimia, anorexia, and the like. And on top of that, it was extremely unfunny, to the point where a lot of the jokes just felt disgusting. A lot of the imagery was absolutely disgusting to look at. And it just didn't work. So an example of a strike for me would be the fat shaming. An example of a strike would be the purposeful attacks on body image, the purposeful concepts of body image being basically determinant on looking a certain way and everything, and you get the idea. And then there was also the fact that these high school girls in the series were being overly sexualized, and they actually acknowledged it in the show, which doesn't make it better, by the way. It doesn't fix the problem at all. To recognize that they're doing it. They were being overly sexualized, these high school age girls, for no reason other than overly sexualizing them. And I've said before, like a character like Momo Yaoyorozu from My Hero Academia, her outfit is sexualized, yes, but it actually has a purpose for the sake of her quirk. It's actually functional. And in that case, it works for the series. But when you have characters, especially teenage girls, being sexualized just for the sake of being sexualized and making a joke out of it, it comes across as extremely creepy. And that would count as another strike. So what I'm saying with this is that a strike for this channel, for the 3-strike rule, is going to be determinant on things that are offensive, things that are extremely, like, terrible in terms of its message or moral or ideal, things that are just excessively immersion breaking and just completely comes across as like unlikable, like extremely unlikable, stuff like that. Basically, it's not going to be something that's taken lightly. You're not going to get a strike for just being stupid or for a character having a dumb moment or anything. No, like the strikes are going to matter. And now you may, and I'm going to keep track of the strikes, by the way. I'm going to keep track of them on a list and everything so that I know when 3 strikes are hit. And by the way, the 3 strikes can happen in the same episode. It's not like, oh, 1 strike per episode. No, it's 1 strike per whatever is worthy of the strike. Whether it's a scene or a specific moment or whatever. And mind you, I'm not going to go too far. Like, it's not going to be like you could have 3 strikes in the same line of dialogue. No. No. But you could easily have 3 strikes within a single scene. A single episode for sure. But now the question you may be wondering is there a way to get rid of strikes? Like, clean the slate, basically. And the answer is yes. But it's not going to be something that's easy to do. Basically, the only way for a show to remove a strike is for option 1 is that something happens after that strike occurred that changes the basically changes the overall outcome of whatever was strike-worthy. Like, for example, let's just use the Dumbbell Girl anime again. Let's say there was something in the future of the anime that started to explain that, yeah, all these negative conceptions of body image that have been getting put forward since the first episode, yeah, that was intentional because it's supposed to be displayed as being a negative conception of body image. And that the characters actually start to realize that. Because, see, that is something that would fix that issue. And as such, that issue would be resolved. And the strike would be wiped away. But, I mean, if you get 3 strikes before that moment would ever come, then it's not going to matter at that point. Once it's 3 strikes, you're out. But if, like, you only had 2 strikes up to that point, 1 strike would be wiped away and you'd be back down to 1. The other way to lose a strike is for the show to do something so exceptional, so shocking, and or so just insanely well handled that it basically excuses one bad mess up. Basically something on the level of pretty much anything from Carol and Tuesday. Let's put it that way. You guys know at this point how much I adore Carol and Tuesday and how I find that pretty much everything they do is so exceptionally well handled. Well, it's kind of like that. It's like, since, as an example, things from Carol and Tuesday so exceptionally well handled, such as Carol and Tuesday's relationship and specifically the way it builds and comes to a head in episode 12. Something like that is just that excellently put together and structured and well executed would be enough to take away a strike. But again, it has to be something really exceptional. It has to be something really notable in how good it is to take away a strike. Because again, the strikes aren't being given out for just anything. They're being given out for things that really bother me, for things that really upset me for one reason or another. So in order to clear that, yeah, you're going to have to do something that really is kind of the complete opposite. So yeah, those are really the only 2 ways you can remove a strike. Otherwise, it's just basically like 3 strikes and you're out. But yeah, I feel like most shows, if they have like really bad strikes against them, won't even get to the point where they'd be able to erase strikes. Usually when it gets to that point where it's like, oh, it has that exceptional moment or something, it's like everything before that was just kind of meh, and there was maybe one or two bad parts that were just kind of like just poorly executed and whatnot, and it could have been better if it was handled in a more, well, better way. So usually if it's like really bad, it's unlikely that it's going to get fixed that way. Not impossible, just unlikely. But yeah, so overall, that's kind of the changes I wanted to discuss about being implemented here. Once again, the 10% rule is just kind of being rehandled into just a interest rule. So it's like if I like have no interest pretty much whatsoever in continuing, or especially continuing to react to a series, then I'm going to drop it. And if that's not the case, then we go with the 3-strike rule. And if that's not the case, then of course, I mean, obviously we just continue watching, because at that point it would just be good. Or at least good enough to continue moving on with. Right now, I would say Oban Star Racers, which I'm starting up again, which is where I also mentioned this today. I would say that's kind of on the edge at the moment, but we'll see where that goes for the future. We'll see. We'll see. Plus, I actually haven't recorded the reaction itself to today's episode of Oban, so who knows where that's even going to go. I wanted to record this first. So yeah, that's basically how it's going to go from here on out. And again, the 3-strike rule is basically going to only apply to certain things, and only if they're a big enough deal to me, like to personally bother me to a noteworthy degree. And yeah, just as a note as well, it can be a recurring thing, like something that recurs in the series that just continuously gets worse and worse every time it happens. Example, just Rimuru being excessively overpowered in Reincarnated as a slime. At first it was just okay, but then it started getting worse and worse because it just kept showing there was, every episode, so much lack of any kind of tension or issue, and continuing to show how just overpowered and perfect Rimuru is, just completely ruined my interest. But it only did so upon seeing multiple episodes worth of that. So yeah, that kind of thing would be considered a strike at that point, basically. Unless it just straight up kills my interest in the series altogether at that point. But yeah, hopefully most shows won't even need to bother with the strikes. Hopefully most shows, even if I end up dropping them because of lack of interest, won't even get to the point where they have anything that bad. But I did just want to tell you guys about the updated policies for this all, because I want to make sure that what I'm watching on the channel, what I'm reacting to, the content I'm putting out is quality content. I want to give you guys the best content I can, and I don't feel I'm doing that if the show is upsetting me or bothering me to any notable degree. And especially if it's a show I'm just generally not enjoying, then it's not going to be an enjoyable reaction to it. So yeah. Either way, thank you so much for understanding. If you have anything to say regarding this, please feel free in the comments below. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.